Hello, everyone, and a happy Monday to you. Welcome to StormTracker8 Beyond the Forecast. This is a show we're going to do for you daily where we're going to talk about some insight into weather not only happening here in Central Virginia, but around the world that maybe we find interesting, which we hope you would find interesting as well. Now, I'm not going to do this by myself. I'm going to bring in, there she is, StormTracker8 meteorologist Madison Olms. And good afternoon, Madison. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm super excited to get this rolling. I know there's a lot of weather that always goes on, and we're here to break it down.
Yeah, we sure are. And, this over time, this is going to become kind of your show, and Tyler as well. So it's a Monday through Friday thing. We're going to try and do it every day at about 1:30, and we'll keep it kind of open-ended, but we're thinking, somewhere maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And over time, we're going to allow viewers like yourself to ask some questions through social media, and we'll try to answer them to kind of get them some things going. So let me first welcome you, and again, Happy New Year, by the way.
I'm super excited.
Yep.
And you said there was a little bit of snow going on in portions of the Northeast that we wanted to break down just a little bit more.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So if you've been kind of paying attention to some wild weather up in upstate New York off of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, we have some insane weather that has been happening. Now, finally, this is calmed down here, but lake effect snow off of Erie and Ontario specifically, some of these shots here from Pulaski, Redfield, where Pulaski picked up 60 inches of snow in about 36 hours. I mean, Madison, I know you grew up in the Chicago area.
Yes.
I don't think you ever experienced that much snow, though.
Not that much, not at once anyways, maybe after a whole snow event, but not at the rates that they were experiencing up there.
I mean, they were getting some snowfall rates of about 5 to 6 inches per hour. So, I mean, that's incredible stuff, right, to get that kind of snow. The good news is it is light and fluffy, and you see the guy who's shoveling there, see how easily he's clearing it? Still, it's a lot to clear. So I thought one of the things we would talk about is kind of the what is lake effect snow. So some graphics that you've kind of put together here. You want to run through a little bit of the setup here, Madison?
Yeah, so lake effect snow, we have colder land. This is typically in our winter months, but that water doesn't cool down nearly as quickly as our land does sometimes. So when you're seeing those surrounding areas with cooler air that's much cooler than our water, that's going to start to move over our lakes, and that wind is going to push that cold air over the lake, and this cold air is eventually going to warm. And once this air starts to warm over those lakes, we're going to start to see those clouds form as well. It's going to be relatively low clouds, and they're going to be pretty intense once that system continues to make its way over the next portion of land. So we're seeing cold air. We're going to reference the left side of our land here on the left side of that lake, and then you warm up over that lake, that cloud forms, and then it keeps on moving over to that next side of the lake on the right side, and that cold air that's still over that land is eventually going to create that snow because we're seeing the cloud above, and then that has the precipitation with it. So we're still seeing what could have been a rain event, but since temperatures were so cold, just created a really intense snow.
Yeah, it's really that intense Arctic air coming down. Like if you think of the left side of this as coming down out of Canada, so to speak, and then the right side would be, let's say, New York State or maybe Ohio off of Erie into Cleveland, or even off of Lake Michigan into the lower peninsula of Michigan. Same type of thing, but that Arctic air, it makes these what are really nothing more than tiny thunderstorms. But when we think of thunderstorm in the middle of summer, 30, 40, 50,000 feet, really high, right? And we get torrential downpours. That same thunderstorm is now happening inside of 10,000 feet. So you have all that same energy, and it's just dropping that snowfall at ridiculous rates. We mentioned before, Pulaski 5 to 6 inches per hour. So pretty intense stuff. And this happens through all of the Great Lakes off of Ontario, Erie, Huron, Superior, and Lake Michigan. And typically, these are north to northwest or westerly winds, which help to create that lake effect snow. Did you ever get it when you lived in Chicago? Once in a while, we get an easterly wind. Did you ever get like lake effect snow on the east side of town, or not as much?
We did. I was in the most northern portion of the state, just below the Wisconsin border, and it was still very not unheard of to be getting lake effect snow. I actually grew up thinking you always got lake effect snow on the more eastern sides because we experienced it so much when I was younger. But the more I learned, it is more north to northwesterly directions, and that is, what I eventually got to learn throughout my degree. But yeah, in Chicago, they still experience it, even though it might be a little less frequent than
Yeah.
what we see in New York, portions of Pennsylvania, in Ohio, and all that sort of stuff.
Right, very interesting stuff. All right, for the big stuff for us now, and really the eastern third, maybe eastern half of the country, is going to be what we've been talking about for a lion's share of the week, which is the warm up, which is coming. Which I think many people are kind of excited. People saying warm up, it's chilly today.
Yeah, we still are relatively cool, more seasonable today as we're starting off our week. But if you take a look south, especially in portions of Texas and even near Florida and Georgia, we're seeing a little bit of a warmer trend down there, 61 degrees in Atlanta. And that air is going to continue to push its way closer and closer to us. And that's going to kickstart our warming trend that we have for the rest of the week as it inches closer to us. So our temperatures today still seasonable in the 40s throughout this afternoon. Tomorrow, though, we are going to be seeing temperatures back in the 60s. Our typical average for this time of year, 48 degrees during the day. And then take a look at Tuesday, 61 degrees back on the board there, 62 on Wednesday, still 60 degrees Thursday. Come Friday and Saturday, though, that's when we've been tracking the most warming. And Friday, our record high temperature, 73 degrees. So that happened in 1930 and 2008. We are pushing close to nearing that. I don't think we'll be breaking any records,
Sure.
but it's a significant warm-up, especially for early January.
Yeah, I think the previous graphic really stated it, right? So 48's the normal high, and we're looking at temperatures, by Thursday and Friday, or Friday and Saturday, excuse me, in the middle 60s. It's talking nearly 20 degrees above average, which is really, really warm when you think of all things considered. And then you think back into December, how chilly we were, right? So this is going to be a nice change even today. But I love the fact that you put this graphic together showing the records, because people would say, oh, we're going to be in the 60s, got to be close to records.
Right.
We really aren't. I mean, that records are records for a reason.
Yes.
It's a lot to break them.
Yeah, it's far and few between, and it happens. Records are broken or they're met. That happened twice in two different occasions, 1930 and 2008. Well, far apart from each other, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah, it is not unheard of. Now, with that, of course, people want to know we're going to get sunshine, and then the other question is, how long is this warming trend going to last? And let's kind of talk about that. You have here the 6 to 10 day outlook, which still shows above normal temperatures as we enter January 13th, 14th, 15th, kind of the back end of our 8-day forecast.
Right, so that's heading into next week at this point, early next week, and we're still seeing, that light orange, a slightly darker color, but we were seeing red on the board just a few days ago, which meant that the temperatures were finally towards the end of this week, was that indication that we are really going to be warm. So it's nearing normal, but it's still going to be much warmer than what we're used to feeling.
And then if we add a little bit more onto that, we go to that 8 to 10 day, now all of a sudden you notice there's no colors, which means we are back to normal, which is back to the highs of, 48, 49, so to speak, upper 40s. And I got to tell people, if you're looking at the models and you're going long range, there are some indications that we might see another polar vortex slide out of Canada and across the Northeast, and whether it dips down into the mid-Atlantic once we get past, January 20th to maybe the 30th, toward the end of the month, that would kind of set us back a bit. So we'll be watching that, of course, pretty carefully, because I think when we get these 60s next couple of days, I think people are like, please, can we have this to stay?
I mean, I'm not complaining. I don't mind the warmer temperatures, but it's January. We're in winter. We're bound to feel some cold.
Yeah, for sure. And we've already had some snow. And of course, I know snow lovers saying we would love some more. Well, let's check that out. Let's see if there's any snow coming. Obviously, with temperatures of 60s, there's not. But ahead of this, or what's kicking this off, I guess I should say, is a pretty powerful system that'll be moving from the Ohio Valley into the Great Lakes. And that's also going to bring us the chance of some showers later this week.
Yes, so by Friday morning, we're just going to be mostly cloudy as this system gets closer to us, but it's going to be moving along pretty well. By Friday evening, that rain starts to enter at least the most western portions of the Commonwealth, and then that's when it's really going to kickstart that event for us during those evening and overnight hours for Friday heading into Saturday. And that line of showers just continues making its way across. And we're seeing a lot of green, not just near us, but in portions of the Northeast. It's stretching all the way down south into Georgia. It's a pretty big system.
It is a pretty big system. The interesting thing is, if people really noticed that as this was developing, it got to some deep yellows back over western North Carolina, even western Virginia. But then as the system pushes east with a flow like this, with the way the setup is, globally, really strong southerly winds, that kind of shears out a lot of the moisture. So we don't look forward to poor buckets as we go into Friday night, Saturday. There'll be showers around, but it's not going to be a deluge of rain, unfortunately, because we could use some rain.
Yes, and I think we can always benefit, especially with the drought conditions that we had. But this rain, it's going to be isolated to scattered at best as it starts to break up a little bit, like you said, with more shearing in those southerly winds.
And then behind this system, you see the clearing skies as we go into Saturday night and early Sunday morning. So we get the sunshine back, but now here come those northwesterly winds, which starts to bring in the return to, as we saw in the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 10 day or 8 to 14 day, temperatures back to the normal kind of conditions. Yeah. So that's one thing we're looking at. Kind of wrap this up for you to put it into an 8-day forecast. When you made the forecast this morning, I mean, you were just like, hey, look at all this mild stuff coming our way.
I know. We're seeing really comfortable, pleasant temperatures. I know a lot of people don't love the cold. Again, I don't mind it, but I'm not going to argue with 60s on the board. And that sunshine on Wednesday, that's going to be nice. And then Friday and Saturday might be a little gloomy, but thankfully, like you said, we're not going to be pouring buckets by any means.
Yeah, and I think Friday, for those, there's a lot of golfers, as you know here. You've probably driven around and see all the golf courses. I have a feeling that Friday afternoon, there's going to be a lot of people taking off from work a bit early and maybe hitting the links, because when you get 60s in January, no better time to get out there and play. And even Saturday, if you don't mind putting the rain gear on, maybe doing some little wet golf, it might be okay too. So, yeah, for sure. Madison, a great little put together there to kind of show what was going on, with the lake effect snow. We're going to be talking as we continue with beyond the forecast over the next couple of days, big national things that are happening. Maybe it'll be, rainfall in the Pacific Northwest, or maybe it'll be a severe weather outbreak or things like that. So we'll be focusing on all that good stuff. And of course, always a deeper dive into our weather as to what we see coming our way and how things will change.
Yes.
That sounds good. Madison, thanks so much for joining me, and thank you all for joining us for Beyond the Forecast. We hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you again tomorrow.